I might
feel like
not
this
wear
is
that
blank.
many.
I think you could have. I think it'd
I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to the Vergne Stormwater Appeals and Advisory Board on February 3rd, 2025 at 5 p.m. We do have a quorum. Our first item of business is to approve the meeting minutes from the August 5th, 2024 public hearing and August 5th, 2024 regular meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We do not appear to have any public comments this evening, so we'll move on to item number 3. Motion to hold 2 meetings each year in February and August. Ma'am, if you'd like to.
Yeah, so basically the reason we want to have 2 meetings a year is just to have more engagement with the board. We like getting to see everybody's faces, and we get to talk a little bit more about our program, about what we're doing, and how everybody can get a little bit more involved. And I think that it's important. You guys get to be as involved as you can with the board.
Absolutely. Do we have any questions or comments on this item?
Sounds good to me.
One statement. Any other comments or questions? We will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept as submitted.
We have a motion to accept as submitted. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We will be having 2 meetings annually.
Woo!
We're moving in the right direction. Item number 4, recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to add the proposed sinkhole protection language to the stormwater management ordinance.
All right, at the last meeting, I did a longer, more detailed presentation about why we needed to have a revision to the stormwater ordinance specific to sinkholes. We have now worked out the precise verbiage that needs to go to Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So I'll go briefly over that and then ask y'all for a recommendation, yes or no, for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So I'll summarize the entire last presentation with this one slide. U.S. Supreme Court changed the scope of the Clean Water Act, or narrowed it in 2023, flowing the protection of sinkholes down to the state. The state did not pick up that ball particularly well, so we are left with no permit for filling a sinkhole, which causes problems to the citizens of the city. All right, so in the ordinance as written right now, we do have this language. Any capping of a sinkhole shall be done under the direction and approval of the city engineering department. Drainage formerly entering the capped sinkhole shall be accounted by providing stormwater calculations showing equal conveyance capacity by an alternative outfall. That wording is still good. What we are doing is providing more clarity and detail on that, because subjectivity is kind of the enemy in terms of enforcing regulations. So here you see basically, I'm not going to read all of this to you, but what we're doing in essence, as we went over it last year, if you fill a sinkhole on your property and it floods your neighbors, that's the bad thing. So we're saying we are giving them clear and detailed requirements of what engineering calculations we have to see to prove you're not going to flood your neighbors by filling your sinkhole. And so, and there's all those requirements, and the part on the right side there, drawing showing the area inundated, proposed grading plan, drawings in detail showing calculations, comparing calculations, contributing drainage area calculations, and drawings demonstrating the inundation and elevations for the 100-year, 24-hour. Yes, I want to get out of here too.
Can't wait to see these minutes.
So if you have a sinkhole on your property,
Yes, ma'am.
which I've got 2, if it floods or my neighbor floods, I'm not responsible?
If you modify that sinkhole,
Oh, okay.
and your modification of that sinkhole floods your neighbor in civil court, and we have an attorney here, you would be responsible.
Okay. Good.
So what we're trying to do, and that's a good point, Ms. Skinner, what you're trying to do here is the city's trying to step in and avoid it getting to that point. We're trying to make sure that you have done your due diligence before you modified the sinkhole, so that you've got something that if you do flood your neighbors and they sue you, you can say, look, I did everything. I did this big old long list of stuff. won't completely absolve you, but it's something, and hopefully it'll keep those lawsuits from even happening.
Well,
That-
one neighbor
that's-
I'm not worried about, he's fixing to leave anyway, but my other neighbor. saying,
But this is basically guide rail, so that will add some safety, not 100%, but some safety.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and here's kind of the gist of it, what we're being looking for. Any filling, capping, or change in capacity of a sinkhole which increases flood depth or flood coverage for the 100-year, 24-hour stormwater event or on other properties will not be allowed. Any filling, capping, or change in capacity of a sinkhole which redirects flow to or through a neighboring property will not be allowed. Any modifications or alteration of a sinkhole which, in the opinion of the city engineer, increase the potential for pollutant inflow into the uppermost aquifer or the subterranean stormwater system will not be allowed. So that's giving the engineers and developers exactly what are the no-nos.
So on that previous slide, those steps you had on there, that's something you're already doing now. It's not additional, like drawing showing the area mandated by the 100-year, 20, all of that. Is that already being done now? Or is this
They're not to the
additional
same level of detail. So yes, we do have the ordinance saying we can ask them for calculations. So what I'm doing is I am in a developer scenario, where they're doing like a commercial site plan. We're doing that now. Okay, that's a really good question, because what this does is it takes it into the single lot residential.
Now, is this additional man-hours that will be, that are going to be used to do these additional steps, and where's that cost being factored?
That cost is being factored as a sunk cost, in that I'm on salary and I just got to use more hours. And I'm not exactly doing 40 hours a week now. So, but, and it just needs to be done. So that what is new is if a single-family lot wants to fill their sinkhole, they're going to have to do these same calculations like a commercial or industrial would have had to in the past.
What do they do to fill it, fill it up? Is there any issue with just filling it up with gravel and calling it a day?
They can do that design. It's called an inverted filter, and that is what is generally done now. And that allows the water to flow through the sinkhole because you're just putting gravel, or you do big rocks, smaller rocks, then gravel, then dirt. And you get it looks like grass on the surface, but the water's still flowing under the ground. And that is done, and that is allowed and will continue to be allowed. That is a proper way to fill a sinkhole. We
Not
just don't want his old toilets and refrigerators and a bunch of
Right.
dirt.
Well,
Not-
I mean, I feel
not
like that would.
putting trash and furniture and stuff like that in it.
Correct.
No concrete.
No, yeah, you can't fill it with concrete.
Yeah.
That used to be done in the 70s, and it caused a lot of problems.
Any other questions or comments? So on this item, we will be giving a favorable or unfavorable recommendation to the mayor and
That
alderman.
is the
that
request, yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to give a favorable recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
We have a motion for a favorable recommendation. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We will be sending a favorable recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen on this item.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item number 5, discussion stormwater monitoring, E. coli and visual stream assessment. Ms. Thompson.
Hello, everybody. Every 5 years, we are required to complete stormwater monitoring, which is basically we have to do different check-ins with our streams to see how they're doing. Are they healthy for a lot of, basically for pathogens? And then another type of monitoring that we need to do is the visual stream assessment. And a visual stream assessment is basically you just walk the stream. Or in this case, we had a consultant firm walk the stream, and it was CEC Engineering. And you only have to walk the streams that are listed as impaired. So if they're impaired for pathogens, if they're impaired for like sedimentation, which is basically they just have a lot of dirt in them, which is really bad, but it doesn't sound bad when I say it that way. And so we had to do Hurricane Creek, Finch Branch, and Rock Springs Branch. Recently, East Branch of Hurricane Creek was taken off the list, so we didn't have to do that this year. It's not listed as impaired, which is good. But so basically, you walk the entire stream and you note if you see something that's irregular, something that needs to be handled or monitored over time. So basically what I took for this presentation is just to go through the different things that they found, and then to let you guys know either what we've done or what we plan to do to try and address those. So the first one on Finch Branch. Oh, also I should note, I'm not going to give anybody any exact locations of anything for right now. We want to avoid any
Confrontation.
yeah, or vigilante justice. We don't need any of that. We'll handle it. The department will handle it, or we'll host an event to do something to get it handled, basically. This is on Finch Branch. There's a collection of tires and an impediment to the flow of water. So they call that a fish barrier. So that's one of the things that they look for, is something to be so blocked up in the channel that fish wouldn't be able to swim through. So the plan is to potentially host an event, or when we do our monthly stream cleanups, have this be one of our target areas and kind of get it repaired. We had a silt fence that was left behind. So from one of our older construction sites, having a silt fence left behind can be a problem because it's basically made out of plastic, so it'll break down over time, and then you get little bits of plastic in the stream, and you don't want that. So basically we talked to the contractor and they removed it. Easy peasy. That one was easy. I liked that one. And then for this one, we had somebody that was driving through the stream bed. So basically they cut both sides and they drove through it. So since we were notified of that, it's been blocked off. They blocked it off on their own because it was more of a commercial site, so that cars can't go through it anymore. And we've been monitoring to make sure that that's not continuing to happen. I did give a location for this one, but not exact. So there was just some pretty intense erosion on the side of this one. The difficult part when you have erosion on a stream bank like this is most of the time it is private property. So we can't force anybody to make a repair on that, but we can let them know that if this is to continue over time, they might lose their fence, they might lose other property, because the water doesn't stop. The water's going to keep going and it will continue to erode. So the plan is to reach out to them, let them know of the risks, and then encourage them to do what they can to improve. Then this is moving over to the Hurricane Creek section. So this is a section of pretty severe erosion that we have. Oh, that's an exact place. But that's it. But there is an exciting topic from this, is that there is some severe erosion leaving this site, but as they're doing the construction, they're planning a constructed wetland, which should slow the water that's leaving as it comes through here, with some like native vegetation and general changing of the channel to slow the water. So that is really exciting. I'm very happy that that's happening. I think it's going to be a really cool stormwater feature for us to maybe reference as we see new developments coming in and say constructed wetlands are an option. We might be able to do that as something new. And then at Rock Springs Branch, where we have some significant sediment in the stream bed. Basically, the plan for this is to continue working with contractors to make sure that we're not having breaches of our stormwater erosion control on site during construction projects. And I will say, this site actually works very hard at keeping their erosion control up to par. It just, sometimes when we get heavy rain events, accidents happen. So we're trying to make sure we can continue educating as we work with them, and then make sure all of their buffer areas are big enough to protect the water effectively. So just our next steps, knowing all of that, is we're going to try and organize some cleanups to address some of those problems. We're going to have some meetings to address some of the knowledge gaps with some of the interested parties and see if we can maybe make some improvements there. And we want to alert property owners to any potential risks that they have on their property, and make sure that they have what they need to make those repairs if they're wanting to, or the information that they need to make those repairs if they want. So the other part of our monitoring is we have to do monitoring for pathogens. So, and that is basically means we need to do testing for E. coli for any streams that have been listed as impaired for pathogens in the past. So we conducted, or CEC conducted, E. coli assessments of Hurricane Creek and Finch Branch. And we did learn that the levels were a little bit high in both of these, but we'll talk about kind of exact numbers as we go through. And just as kind of a reference, 126 CFUs per 100 milliliters is the state accepted number for, if you go over that, you're considered impaired. So that is, keep in mind, that's a fairly low number. We want it to be below that, but sometimes it's not. So we're trying. So this is a lot of numbers for Hurricane Creek, but the only ones that really matter are these ones down here on the bottom in the red box. So when you do E. coli testing, you have to do 5 separate samples in the same place. And so for this, our geometric mean, or the average of all 5 of those, was 322, which is above 126. So it's not great. So moving forward from this, and it's also important to notice that Hurricane Creek is on the border of Laverne and Nashville. So we've already been communicating with Nashville to make sure that they're checking all of their lines that are along their side, and we're also checking all of ours. So we're checking all of our sewer lines, all our manholes, and just checking to make sure that everything we can do on the city side is done as well as possible from that standpoint. So the next stream that we did was Finch Branch. Now, nobody panic when I show, but there are things in place that we're trying to do to improve this. So, Finch Branch, this was the numbers that we had, and the geometric mean was 1,250. So, that is not a low number. The plan going forward from this one, and so the plan is to start this pretty much as soon as this meeting is over, it's in place. So the next thing that we're going to do after receiving all those numbers is to basically do a presence absence of E. coli, like an at-home test, to see if we can determine where the numbers have a significant increase. So if we can say, okay, there's no E. coli here, but there is E. coli here, then we can say, okay, maybe there's some source tracking that we can be doing to say, okay, it starts in this general area. Let's see if we can determine a specific point and focus on solving the problem rather than just like being too alarmed. And then if we can address what the problem is, we'll continue to monitor over time and see if what that was addresses the situation. And there's a lot of different things that can cause high E. coli. So the one that always feels the most alarming is like human sewage. That is obviously very stressful. And that I think is fairly easy to solve if you have that. That could be a sewer line, or it could be somebody that has a malfunctioning system on their property. But there are other causes, which would be like agriculture products, or if you have animals on your property that are producing a lot of waste and that's running into the water. That could be dogs, that could be chickens, that could be anything if it's just in a high capacity. So the plan is for us to try and figure out what the source might be and then try to find a solution and go from there. So that's the plan from our monitoring to see how we can improve things over time. Does anybody have any questions?
So timeline to get it down?
Timeline to get it down. The plan, we're doing the presence absence this week, and that takes at least after the initial testing, it'll take at least 3 days to get the results back. Then that might not be conclusive, so we're kind of trying to see where to go from there depending on what results we get back. We've also talked to Nashville a little bit about what they do, and they have some systems where they have like a DNA test where they try to test if it is human versus animal. And that can help for source tracking to see what you need to be really on the lookout for. So we're looking into that as a potential option. Yeah, so I don't have a really good exact timeline, but testing is starting right now to try and make it better.
So if they do the DNA testing, how long does it take to get those results?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm assuming, so they run, it's called a PCR, which is where you kind of are looking at some of the different molecules and things that make it up. So it would take probably a decent amount of time. We're hoping that that's not the route that we have to go, but I'm hoping the president's absence stuff will give us a little bit more clarity.
But what happens if it determines that it's mostly human DNA? What do we do then? 'Cause
For sewer leaks.
If they determine, yeah, it could be sewer leaks, it could be dumping, it could be something like that. It could be there are surprisingly a lot of reasons that there might be sewage in the water. So it could be a sewer line break, it could be dumping from like a resident, it could be a commercial company, it could be something. So we'd have to try and see if we can locate where the entrance point is or where it gets worse or better, and then try and assess from there.
Now, I'm not familiar with where this Finch, what area?
There's a map in your packet.
Oh, dang it. Yeah, there is a map in the, so you'll be able to, it's in there if you want the details.
It goes essentially from the industrial side of 24 all the way to Smyrna Airport.
Okay.
It's pretty
so-
long. The levels aren't that high in the whole section though. So it's a smaller section that we're looking at for this situation though. Which makes it a little bit easier for the presence absence stuff. To have like a little bit more regimented. And then once we have a better idea of where it might start, we can talk about like potentially doing some like observations over time to see if there's something going on there that we don't know about.
Do we not do our own E. coli testing? Because those results are from the CDC, right?
CEC. So
CEC,
CEC
sorry.
is a consultant. So they did our monitoring for this year. Those were done in, I think, August of 2024.
Okay.
It was, that's what your chart said.
Yeah. So August 2024, and then they got the full report back to us like recently.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Gary, is there anything you'd like to add on top of this?
No, sir, that concludes staff presentation.
Very good. No further questions or comments? Thank you for the report, ma'am. It's not nearly as long as years past.
I
but-
know. I was quick.
Hey, you got to the important stuff. Well, with that, I will call meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time.